was a car that barely managed to sell more than 190 units in 5 years, and today it reaches prices over $800,000. It wasn't a coincidence. It was the beginning of one of the most unbelievable stories in the automotive world. These 13 cars were mocked, rejected, and labeled as the biggest failures of their time. But fate had other plans. Time elevated them to legendary status, turning them into the most coveted treasures for collectors around the globe. If you have one of these failures forgotten in your garage, comment, "I have a legend," because you might be sitting on a fortune on wheels. There's one that almost took its first owner's life, but today collectors get drunk with desire to own it. Another was branded as too extreme, and now it's worth triple its original price. And worse yet, another was so dangerous that the press nicknamed it the Widowmaker, but every surviving unit is now worth more than a mansion. 13. Subaru SVX, 1991-1996. The Glass Meteor. The Subaru SVX was the brand's most ambitious attempt to break into the luxury segment. Designed by Giorgetto Giugiaro, one of the great masters of automotive design, the SVX looked like a futuristic prototype that had escaped from an auto show. Its frameless windows, with a double glass design that left only a small section to open, were as strange as they were fascinating. In a US market used to traditional coupes, the SVX looked like a meteor fallen from space. Subaru launched it hoping to compete against Mercedes-Benz and BMW. With a starting price around $35,000, it landed squarely in premium territory. The problem was Subaru lacked the prestige of the German brands. For many buyers, spending that kind of money on a Subaru was unthinkable. On top of that, the mandatory automatic transmission alienated enthusiasts who wanted a pure driving experience. The naturally aspirated H6 engine, while refined, disappointed those expecting Subaru's signature turbo punch. Sales were a disaster, barely 24,000 units in 6 years. Dealers didn't know how to pitch it. Was it a sports car, a grand tourer, a futuristic experiment? Shoppers looked at it with curiosity, but ended up signing contracts for a Honda Accord or Toyota Camry instead. The SVX became a strange experiment that crashed against the reality of the American market. Time, however, has been its great vindicator. Today, the SVX is considered an absolute rarity. Collectors see it as Subaru's only serious attempt to conquer the luxury segment. Its design, incomprehensible in the 90s, is now appreciated as visionary. At auctions, well-preserved examples top $30,000, and its rarity makes it a conversation piece at any enthusiast gathering. Beyond its economic value, the SVX represents a cultural moment, an outsider brand daring to challenge the European giants. In the US, where authenticity and rarity are increasingly prized, the SVX went from commercial failure to a symbol of boldness. What was once ridiculed as a mistake is now celebrated as a cult icon. Before we continue, let me tell you this. This is the channel car dealerships don't want you to watch, because here we show things exactly as they are. No filters, no sugarcoating. Subscribe and leave a like if you don't want to be sold smoke and mirrors, and make sure your next car isn't a cleverly disguised disappointment. 12. Lexus SC300-400, 1991-2000, too perfect for its own good. The Lexus SC was one of those cars that, on paper, had everything it needed to succeed in the US market. When it debuted in 1991, it was a sleek grand tour with flowing lines and an interior that blended Japanese luxury with restraint. Technically, it was superior to its European rivals, more reliable than a Mercedes SL, more refined than a BMW 6 Series, and about $30,000 cheaper. In a country where practicality is often valued, it seemed like the perfect formula. But here's the paradox. In the 90s, luxury car buyers weren't looking for value, they were looking for prestige. And Lexus, even after proving with the LS400 that it could build a world-class sedan, still didn't have the pedigree of Bavaria or Stuttgart. For many Americans, spending big money on a Japanese luxury coupe was almost sacrilegious. The SC was systematically ignored by the automotive press, which preferred to cover the Germans, and sales never took off. Throughout the decade, Lexus fought to convince the world it had created something special. The SC was reliable to the extreme. Engines that could surpass 200,000 miles without issue, smooth transmissions, interiors that aged gracefully. Meanwhile, Mercedes and BMW models of the era were plagued with chronic electrical problems and astronomical maintenance costs. The cruel irony is that Lexus had built the perfect Grand Tourer, but the market chose status over substance. Today, the SC has been rediscovered as a modern classic. Collectors and enthusiasts finally recognize what Lexus knew back in 1991. They had created a car ahead of its time. In the US, where automotive culture increasingly values reliability and authenticity, the SC has become a symbol of resilience. What was once a commercial flop is now celebrated as proof that technical perfection doesn't always guarantee immediate success, but it does leave a lasting mark on history. 11. BMW Z3 M Coupe Clown Shoe, 1998-2002. The oddball that hit a missile. When BMW unveiled the Z3 M Coupe, the reaction was immediate and brutal. What were they thinking? Its awkward proportions, with a long roof and stubby rear, earned it the nickname Clown Shoe. In a market obsessed with aesthetics, the design was seen as an aberration. Only about 9,000 units were sold in 4 years, making it one of the brand's most memorable commercial failures. In US dealerships, buyers flocked to the elegant Z3 Roadster, leaving the coupe as a failed experiment. The press tore it apart for its unsellable looks and high price, but beneath that controversial body was the S4 3.2-liter engine with 321 horsepower, mounted in an ultralight chassis. The few visionaries who bought one discovered they had a pure track machine disguised as a failed experiment. On America's back roads, the Clown Shoe embarrassed far more expensive sports cars, proving that substance mattered more than appearance. Its driving dynamics were brutally honest. No filters, no compromises. A sports car that demanded respect and rewarded with a visceral experience. Today at Barrett-Jackson or Mecum auctions, those same cars fetch over $100,000. What was once ridiculed as ugly has become a cult icon. And in US car culture, where eccentricity often transforms into authenticity, the Clown Shoe found redemption. What was once a cruel joke is now celebrated as one of the purest sports cars of its generation. 10. Acura NSX, 1990-2005. The reliable supercar nobody understood. When Honda decided to build a supercar under the Acura badge for the US market, it did so with a philosophy radically different from Ferrari, Lamborghini, or Porsche. The NSX wasn't a temperamental diva that spent more time in the shop than on the road. It was a supercar that started every morning like a Civic. The NSX was born from Honda's obsession with proving it could compete with Europe's giants on their own turf. Its aluminum chassis was an engineering masterpiece. Its V6 VTEC engine revved with surgical smoothness, and its dynamic balance was fine-tuned with input from none other than Ayrton Senna. Objectively, it was a perfect car, reliable, precise, and usable every day. But that perfection became its curse. In the 90s, supercar buyers weren't chasing efficiency or reliability. They wanted drama. They craved the roar of a Ferrari Testarossa, the brutality of a Lamborghini Diablo, the exclusivity of a Porsche Turbo. The NSX, by contrast, offered an experience that felt too rational. The press labeled it boring, and sales were disappointing. In the US, many dismissed it as an overpriced Honda disguised as an Acura. Enthusiasts recognized its brilliance, but the mainstream market ignored it. For years, used NSXs depreciated heavily, becoming bargains for the few who truly understood what they offered. Today, time has vindicated the NSX. Collectors consider it the first modern supercar, a machine that combined the thrill of a sports car with the reliability of a Japanese sedan. Its legacy runs so deep that even McLaren and Ferrari admitted they studied the NSX when developing their own models. At auctions, pristine examples now exceed $150,000, and its status as an icon is secure. The NSX proved that technical perfection doesn't always win the market in its moment, but given time, it becomes myth. What was once a commercial failure is now a symbol of respect and admiration. 9. Mazda RX-7 FD, 1992-2002, the financial disaster turned masterpiece. The Mazda RX-7 FD is one of those cars that feels like it was designed with passion rather than a calculator. For enthusiasts, it represents the pinnacle of Japanese engineering in the 90s. For Mazda, it was a financial disaster that nearly ruined the company. Debuting in 1992, the RX-7 FD was a radical sports car. Its 13B twin-turbo rotary engine officially produced 255 horsepower, but what truly set it apart was how it delivered that power. Weighing under 2,900 pounds, the FD danced through corners with uncanny agility. Its steering was razor-sharp, its chassis responded with surgical precision, and the driving experience was visceral, almost spiritual. In the US, where muscle cars ruled with brute force and displacement, the RX-7 offered an exotic alternative, a sports car built on lightness and innovation. The problem was Mazda sold it at a loss. The rotary engine was expensive to build and difficult to maintain. Its complexity scared buyers, and its reputation for fragility sealed its fate. In America, many opted for a Corvette or a Toyota Supra, cars that were more conventional and less troublesome. The RX-7 FD became a niche product, admired by a few but ignored by the mainstream. Sales were so poor they nearly bankrupted Mazda. For years, used RX-7s sold for laughably low prices, and many were destroyed by young owners who modified them recklessly, chasing more power without understanding the delicacy of the rotary. But here's the twist. True enthusiasts realized they had a masterpiece in their hands. The RX-7 FD demanded respect and rewarded drivers with an experience few cars could match. Its rotary engine, once seen as a liability, is now revered as the pinnacle of automotive innovation. Today, a well-preserved RX-7 FD commands between $80,000 and $150,000, and completely original examples are treated as treasures. In US car culture, the RX-7 became iconic thanks to its role in Fast and Furious and its presence in video games like Gran Turismo and Need for Speed. What was once a financial disaster is now one of the most coveted Japanese cars among collectors. The RX-7 FD proves that genius doesn't always translate into immediate commercial success, but over time, authenticity and innovation always find their place in history. 8. Nissan Skyline GT-R R33, 1995 and 1998, the misunderstood brother. In the US, the Skyline GT-R name commands absolute respect. Yet for years, the R33 was seen as the fat brother of the family. It arrived after the legendary R32, which dominated the track, and before the mythical R34, which became a movie star in Fast and Furious. The R33 was stuck in the middle, doomed to be compared to two legends. Japanese media criticized it for being heavier and less agile than the R32. In forums and magazines of the time, it earned the nickname the Fat GT-R. Enthusiasts in Japan saw it as a betrayal of the Skyline legacy. And in the US, where only a handful of examples trickled in, the perception was similar. Too big, too civilized, not brutal enough. But time has been the ultimate judge. Today we know the R33 had strengths its siblings lacked. Its RB26D engine was more mature and reliable than the R32's, and its aerodynamics were superior to the R34's. On track, it could be devastating, but it also offered a more comfortable experience in daily driving. In a country like the US, where cars must handle both interstate highways and urban traffic jams, that duality makes it surprisingly versatile. Modern collectors have rediscovered the R33 as the most balanced GT-R. Its value has multiplied tenfold in the past decade, and at American auctions, it now exceeds $120,000. What was once considered the worst GT-R is now respected as the most underrated. In US car culture, where the underdog always has a special place, the R33 fits perfectly. It's the Rocky Balboa of Skylines, misunderstood, criticized, but ultimately redeemed as a champion. And in a country that celebrates redemption stories, the R33 has found its place as the GT-R that went from being ridiculed to becoming a legend. 7. Mitsubishi 3000 GT VR4, 1990-1999. The future before its time. The Mitsubishi 3000 GT VR4 looked like it had rolled straight out of a secret laboratory. At a time when many sports cars still relied on carburetors and relatively simple mechanics, Mitsubishi went all in on a technological arsenal that felt like science fiction. The 3000 GT offered active all-wheel drive, adaptive suspension, movable aero, and twin turbos. Owning one was like having an iPhone in 1990. Brilliant, but misunderstood. In the US, buyers were intimidated by its complexity. Mechanics hated it because it was difficult to repair, and the press dismissed it as too complicated for its own good. Against simpler rivals like the Corvette, the 3000 GT looked like technological overkill. Sales never took off, and Mitsubishi quietly pulled the plug. What most people didn't realize at the time was that the 3000 GT was ahead of its era. Every technology it introduced eventually became industry standard. Active aerodynamics, intelligent all-wheel drive, adaptive suspension. Today, supercars from Ferrari, Porsche, and McLaren use systems the 3000 GT pioneered more than 30 years ago. In the US, where technological innovation often earns admiration in hindsight, the 3000 GT has been rediscovered as a precursor to today's smart supercars. Collectors now revere it as the car that imagined the future before it arrived. Its value has skyrocketed, with well-preserved examples selling for over $60,000. Beyond the price tag, the 3000 GT represents a cultural moment, a Japanese brand daring to challenge American and European giants with pure innovation. What was once ridiculed as excessive is now celebrated as prophetic. In the American narrative, the 3000 GT embodies the idea that pioneers are rarely understood in their own time, but eventually recognized as visionaries. 6. Dodge Viper RT10, 1992-1995. The untamed beast. From day one, the Dodge Viper RT10 was a car that refused to apologize. In an era when manufacturers were softening their sports cars with electronic aids and creature comforts, Dodge went the opposite direction, building a brutal land missile with no filters and no compromises. Under its hood sat an 8.0-liter V10 derived from a truck block, producing over 400 horsepower. There was no traction control, no ABS, not even standard air conditioning. The Viper was literally a car that could kill you if you didn't know what you were doing. The American press dubbed it the most dangerous car in America, and it wasn't exaggeration. At dealerships, curious buyers climbed in expecting a traditional American sports car, but what they found was a savage machine that demanded absolute respect. Sales collapsed once people realized it really could bite back. In its worst year, Dodge sold just 285 units, and executives considered canceling it for being too extreme for the general public. Yet the same brutality that doomed it commercially is exactly what has made it one of America's most desired legends. Collectors pay fortunes to experience that raw, unfiltered driving. No assists, no compromises, every mile a direct negotiation between man and machine. At auctions, pristine examples now exceed $150,000, cementing its status as an icon. The Viper RT10 represents the essence of American car culture: excess, brute power, and the belief that freedom also means risk. What was once dismissed as a marketing mistake is now celebrated as one of the most authentic sports cars ever built. In a country that values boldness and individuality, the Viper stands as a reminder that greatness often comes from danger. 5. Nissan Skyline GT-R R32, 1989-1994. Misunderstood Godzilla. The R32 redefined what a Japanese sports car could be. Equipped with the ATS all-wheel drive system and the RB26DET twin-turbo 2.6-liter engine, officially limited to 280 horsepower, though in reality closer to 320, the R32 was a precision machine. In Japan, it dominated the track, winning 29 consecutive races in the national championship. In Australia, the media nicknamed it Godzilla after watching it annihilate every competitor. That reputation was no accident. The R32 combined advanced electronics with a focused chassis and power delivery that made rivals look outdated overnight. But its success on the track became its commercial curse. The R32 was so extreme, so focused on pure performance, that everyday buyers found it intimidating and impractical. The suspension was stiff, the AWD system had a sharp personality, and the whole package felt designed for a perfect lap rather than a commute. In the US, where Japanese sports cars were still viewed with skepticism, the R32 seemed too radical. On top of that, import laws kept it out of reach for average consumers, reinforcing its aura as the forbidden car you only knew from magazines, VHS street racing tapes, or early simulation video games. For years, the R32 was considered a marketing misstep, too specialized for a mass market. Yet enthusiasts knew what they had, the most technologically advanced sports car of its era. Its ATISA system distributed torque with intelligence rivals couldn't match for years, and HICA's rear-wheel steering gave it supernatural agility in fast corners. Over time, perception shifted. The 25-year import rule opened the door to legal US ownership, and the myth finally met the market. Today, bringing an R32 GTR stateside costs over $100,000, and each unit is treated as a sacred relic of Japanese motorsport. In American car culture, the R32 embodies the fascination with the exotic and the forbidden. For decades, it was out of reach, which only amplified its mystique. When the gates finally opened, collectors hunted them down like hidden treasure. The forbidden fruit narrative resonates deeply in the US. This was the car you couldn't have, the one humiliating rivals in imported VHS tapes and magazine reviews, the one that defined an era of bold engineering without asking permission. What was once seen as a commercial failure is now celebrated as one of the most influential sports cars in history. The R32 also left a profound cultural legacy. It cemented the GTR's image as the people's supercar, using technology to topple established giants. In a nation that celebrates underdogs, Godzilla found its natural home. Its story resonates with Americans because it blends technical merit, forbidden mystique, and late redemption. It wasn't built to please, it was built to win, and that honesty, though it cost sales at the time, made it a legend. 4. Toyota Supra Mk4, 1993-2002. From failure to global myth. The Toyota Supra Mk4 is one of those cars whose story feels straight out of a movie, and in fact it was. When it debuted in 1993, Toyota introduced it as their ultimate sports car, a coupe powered by the legendary 2JZ GTE, a 3.0-liter twin-turbo inline-six officially rated at 320 horsepower, though everyone knew the real figure was higher. It was an indestructible engine, capable of handling extreme modifications, paired with a chassis that delivered near-perfect balance. The 2JZ's engineering, iron block, robust architecture, generous tolerances, made it the perfect canvas for tuners. In the US, that build-not-bought culture found its ideal tool. But the American market wasn't ready. The Supra was too expensive, too complex, and arrived at the worst possible time. Buyers were shifting toward SUVs, while Japan was in the middle of an economic recession that limited domestic demand. In US dealerships, Supras sat unsold. For years, they were practically given away on used car lots, and Toyota lost millions. The brand was so shaken it abandoned pure sports cars for nearly 2 decades. The timing was cruel. The Supra's technical excellence clashed with a culture that was turning away from coupes and embracing trucks and utility vehicles. Then came the unexpected twist. In 2001, The Fast and the Furious turned the Supra into a cultural icon. The film showed the world what enthusiasts already knew, that the Supra was a machine capable of humiliating any rival on track or street. The 10-second car scene became gospel. Overnight, Toyota's commercial flop transformed into the most desired car on the planet. And it wasn't just Hollywood. Forums, performance shops, and American magazines elevated the 2JZ to near-mythical status. The Supra became the symbol of a car culture that celebrated tuning, personalization, and mechanical creativity. Today, a pristine Mk4 Turbo Supra sells for over $200,000 at US auctions. Its 2JZ engine is considered the most legendary power plant ever built, and its myth is secure. In American car culture, the Supra represents redemption, a car once ignored that became a symbol of power, customization, and pop culture. It's the neighborhood hero that, with the right setup and skilled hands, can deliver performance once reserved for European supercars. Its revaluation isn't just economic, it's cultural. The Supra embodies the idea that ingenuity and passion can turn a bad business into a legend. The MK4 also left a generational mark. For thousands of Americans, it was the gateway into the JDM world. Garage nights, legal and illegal races, forums and tutorials where people learned to build power with patience and precision. That emotional bond sustains its myth. It's not just fast, it's a symbol of community. And while Toyota took years to realize it, the modern Supra revival exists because the MK4 became a banner. What was once a market failure is now a global phenomenon, and in the US, its resurrection story is already part of automotive canon. Before revealing the top 3, here's a quick reminder. To stay informed about what dealerships might be hiding and to truly understand what you're buying, subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. We're dedicated to uncovering the secrets they'd rather you never discover. 3. Honda S2000, 1999-2009. Too pure for the mass market. Honda launched the S2000 to celebrate its 50th anniversary, and from day one, it was radical. Its F20 2.0-liter VTEC engine produced 240 horsepower and revved to 9,000 RPM, a figure that seemed impossible for a naturally aspirated motor. Its 6-speed manual transmission was as precise as a scalpel, and its lightweight chassis delivered a pure, unfiltered driving experience. But that purity was seen as a flaw in the US market. Dealers complained the car was too technical for the average driver. The press criticized its stiff suspension and lack of low-end torque. Honda expected to sell 10,000 units annually in America, but barely managed 4,000 in its first year. The S2000 was labeled a commercial failure, too extreme for mainstream buyers. Yet true enthusiasts understood the genius behind it. The S2000 was a roadster that offered analog driving at its finest. Every gear change, every steering input, every acceleration was a direct connection between driver and machine. In a country where car culture values authenticity, the S2000 became a symbol of purity. Today, well-kept examples sell for over $50,000, tripling their original price. The same critics who buried it now call it Honda's last analog masterpiece, and the perfect roadster we'll never see again. In the US, the S2000 is celebrated as a modern classic, a car that represents the essence of pure driving in an era dominated by electronics. 2. Audi TT MK1, 1998-2006. The rebel that nearly destroyed Audi. The Audi TT MK1 hit the market as a revolutionary design object. Its rounded silhouette, inspired by German Bauhaus, looked more like a sculpture than a car. In the US, where automotive design carries huge cultural weight, the TT was initially welcomed as a breath of fresh air. Young professionals and designers adored it, and Audi seemed to have found a new icon. But then came the nightmare. At speeds over 110 mph, the TT became unstable, causing fatal accidents on German highways. The automotive press crucified it, calling it a coffin on wheels and Audi's worst engineering mistake. In the US, where safety is central to car culture, the news was devastating. Sales plummeted 60% in just 6 months, and Audi was forced to halt production to redesign the aerodynamics and add an emergency rear spoiler. Dealers reported mass returns and multi-million-dollar lawsuits. Audi's reputation teetered on collapse. For a brand trying to establish itself in the US as a premium alternative to BMW and Mercedes, the TT was nearly fatal. Yet after the fixes, something magical happened. The world fell in love with its revolutionary design. Its minimalist interior, taut lines, and pure aesthetic redefined automotive elegance. In the US, the TT became a symbol of urban style, appearing in movies, fashion magazines, in creative garages. Today, the Mk1 TT is considered one of the most influential design cars of the 21st century. American collectors pay a fortune for pristine examples of this problematic yet visionary generation. What was once a scandal that nearly destroyed Audi is now celebrated as a cultural icon. One Porsche 911 GT2 993, 1993-1998. The Widowmaker turned relic. The Porsche 911 GT2 of the 993 series is the epitome of what it means to be a lethal car. Designed as a road-going missile, it carried a twin-turbo engine with 430 horsepower, rear-wheel drive only, and weighed just 2,140 pounds. It was a ticking time bomb on wheels. Early buyers quickly discovered that driving this car was literally an act of survival. Its turbo lag was so violent it could launch you into a wall in a fraction of a second, and its tendency to oversteer was so aggressive that even professional drivers feared it. The press nicknamed it the Widowmaker, the 911 that hated its driver. Porsche had planned to produce 1,000 units annually, but in the end sold only 194 over 5 years. In the United States, where car culture values both power and safety, the GT2 was seen as an irresponsible excess. For years, it was considered a commercial failure and proof that even Porsche could make a mistake. But time reshaped its reputation. The few brave souls who mastered this beast discovered the purest, most terrifying driving experience ever created. Today, each surviving example is worth more than $800,000, making the 993 GT2 the most valuable failure in automotive history. In American car culture, the GT2 embodies the fascination with extremes. It represents the thin line between human control and mechanical chaos. What was once seen as a mistake is now celebrated as a relic, a testament that greatness often comes from excess. After seeing these 13 cars, if you had to choose one, which would it be? Just one. We'd love to hear your opinion. Let's see how many of us choose the same one. Although something many of us will also choose is to watch the video I've included on screen because it could save us money, time, and headaches in the future. But before you do, don't forget to subscribe and like. Otherwise, we might not see each other again.